All right. All right. Okay, so welcome to everyone. I am Principal Wright of Highland Park Christian Academy, and I am so delighted that we can come and share with you this special webinar series that we have been in. This is actually our second one in a three-part webinar series. The first one that we did was parenting in a pandemic. This is the second one, and this one is called guilt-free parenting. Know your parenting style. I am so excited that we are going live on Facebook. So even if your friends or your family members could not register through Zoom, they can absolutely see it on Facebook Live. To easily find us, just do at HPCA 6801. So I'm going to introduce our panelists for this evening. I'm allow them to say a few things about themselves really quick, and then we're going to jump right in. So when you're talking to us, just tell us your connection to HPCA and whatever it is you want to tell us. So first up, we have guest panelists, JAMAAL and NEISHA, right? They're friends of the Academy. They're coming to us all the way from, and I hope I'm saying this right, Cibolo, Texas.
Yes.
Okay, so let's hear from you all.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Facebook fam. I'm NEISHA.
I'm JAMAAL.
And we are parents of three. Even though we have 4 kids in the house right now, we have our nephew. So we are excited to speak as panelists.
Yeah, what she said.
Okay, next up we have Elder Danny, the Prince, the second. He's a proud HPCA dad. He's a father of 3 angels. I didn't say daughters because they're angels, meaning that they came from Angela, which makes them angels. And at least one of them is definitely his. No, all 3 of them his. It's just that last one looks just like him. He's the husband of our former HPCA educator, Mrs. Angela Prince. All right, Danny, let's hear a little bit about you.
I mean, Principal Wright, I think you said it all. I mean, I'm excited to be on this panel. I'm excited to sit amongst these wise individuals, and I'm hoping that anything I share, it will be a blessing to those that are listening. And I hope to be able to learn and be able to take some nuggets home myself. So I'm excited and I'm ready.
Okay. Next, we have the DAMONT Wood. I won't read that stuff because I feel like I am saying too much about you all before you get to say it yourself. So the DAMONT Wood, what's up?
You gave me an extra E. I will take it. Yes. As the slide says, I have 3 children that came, well, 2 that are presently in HPCA, and 1 is a proud alumni of it. I'm also married to the what is it, PTCA? No, that is the PP. I'm thinking public school. PPA president. Yes, I am. And it's just an honor to be here. Thankful. Thank you so much, Ms. Wright, for allowing me to be here.
Okay. And next we have Pastor Stephon Showtime Lindsay. Hey, bro.
What's up, family? I'm honored. As you can see, since I'm a father of 2, shout out to my boys, Taj and Shamar, who are 3 and 5 years old. So I'm still learning. I got a long way to go. And as Elder Prince said, Pastor Prince, I'm looking forward to learning as well. I'm a student today. And husband to my beautiful queen, my wife, I know she's tuned in. Shout out to Isha, my boo. I'm honored to serve as the Global Youth Pastor at Zion Church under the leadership of Pastor Battle. And I'm blessed to be on this panel. Thank you so much, Principal Wright. And blessed that my 2 children, Shamar and Taj, they get to get a dynamic 5-star education from the Highland Park Christian Academy.
Oh, thank you. We love you, Pastor Lindsay and Isha. We got to make sure that even though you don't see their wives, that they're right there with them. So thank God for your better half there. Okay, so wait, I got to make sure I'm saying this right. Get my head right. Milan, and Aisha Buffy Lancaster. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's hear a little bit about yourself.
Yes, thank you for having us. I'm Buffy, and this is
Milan.
okay. And we are proud parents. Our youngest is a HBCA student in first grade. I do also serve on the PPA board as the treasurer, and we have three boys that are 17, 14, and as I said, our youngest is 7, and we're happy to be here. That's it. Thank
Thank
you.
you guys so very, very much. And last but not least, Reverend Altheria Barnett. Let's hear from you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Altheria Barnett. I am the youth minister of First Baptist Church of Highland Park. We are proud friends of the Highland Park Christian Academy, and I am the mother of 6 children by way of marriage. We have a blended family, but all my children at this point are all grown. The youngest child is 29. So God is able, and I want you to keep hope alive.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get started. I'm super excited about tonight. Again, we want this to be very, very conversational. Those of you that are on Zoom with us, there's a Q&A section. So if you want to ask questions, you can drop your questions right there in the Q&A section. Those of you that are on Facebook, you can drop your comments right there in the comment section. Before we get started, I have a question for not only the panelists, but everyone that's present today. It's actually a polling question. So the first question is, which best describes your parenting style? Would you say it's old school, new school, or somewhere in between? So if everybody just look down where it says poll, if you're on Zoom, go ahead and vote. If you're on Facebook, if you can just go ahead and type that in the comments there. I'll give you a few moments to do that. Okay. Okay. So a lot of people are like in that in between, somewhere in between. I guess it's helpful to know too, like, well, what is old school? What is new school? We'll talk about it a little bit there. Okay. All right. So the majority, 60% of the people are saying that they're somewhere in between. And we'll continue to have some polling questions throughout the night. So let's talk about it. Here's what I was really concerned about when I thought about the panel just a little bit more. I was thinking, I may have too many millennials. But here's the funny thing about it. I feel like even though you all are in the same generation, the majority of you, except for Reverend Barnett and myself, I'm Gen X and proud to be a Gen Xer. I feel like you are going to bring different perspectives. I feel like JAMAAL, he's my younger brother. Even though he's a millennial, I feel like he was raised sort of like a Gen Xer, because the rest of us, it's 4 of us, 3 of us were raised as Gen Xers. So he's got a little mix there. So how did you all respond? How do you describe your parenting style? Anybody can jump in there. Did you say old school, new school, or somewhere in between?
We chose somewhere in between. I think really because we do have like some old school things, like, you know, don't sit on the couch, like those type of things where you got boundaries. My kids always say it's always boundaries in the house, so like certain things you could do, you just can't do anything. But I think we're there in between, because I see my parents saying, you gonna let them do that? You gonna let them stay up that late? And I'm like, hey, I don't know. Like, I'm going to sleep. They'll wake up.
Okay, anybody else? What'd you say?
It's funny because my son Dylan, who's proud, he's in HBCA. He came in as like old school, you know what I'm saying? But I'm nowhere near old school. I say I'm a new school parent. If he only knew what old school really meant, my gosh. But yeah, I do parenting through this, like, relationship versus this like name. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm your dad because I said so. I'm not the because I said so parent. I'm more of like, I feel as though relationship brings respect. You know what I'm saying? And that's the way, you know, we do our parenting in here.
Okay. All right, JAMAAL and NEISHA. Old school, new school, somewhere in between.
Well, I think for JAMAAL and I, number one, there's a big, not a big, but there's a minor cultural difference. So just within our relationship and our parenting style, it will change, but we always seem to, you know, be on the same page at the end. I don't think we're old school. We said we were more in between.
Yeah.
Like some of the panelists said, we, you know, the respect, and we just don't have our kids do something because we said so. We want them to understand the consequence of every single action.
Sometimes. It's
No,
like, yo,
not for me.
yo,
See, it's different. No.
just do it. I ask you to do something, just do it. I don't
See,
care.
I told you. I
care what
told
you
you he was
do it.
raised as a Gen Xer, the mentality of Gen Xers. Gen Xers, we're the generation that we do exactly what we were told. If your parents told you to do something, you did it. And there was no really question about it. Even if you wanted to question it, it was in your head. You don't say it out your mouth. You say it to your siblings, but you don't say it out your mouth. You don't have an opinion. That's it. So that's what you see there. What about you, Lindsay? Showtime.
Yeah. I say I'm somewhere in between. I got an old soul, and one thing I appreciate a lot about old school. One thing I appreciate is like old school parents, they teach you how to show another level of respect for your elders. And I think a lot of times when I see parents these days and children coming up, not that it's personal, you could just tell it's not indoctrinated in them. It's not engraved in them as much. And so for my kids, whenever they see somebody older, I want them to show that respect. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. And you do need to be quiet a little bit in certain conversations, you know. So I think it just shows a level of humility, not from the standpoint of suppression, like you don't matter, but you got to know when to speak. And I appreciated that about old school. I mean, I'm in between.
Prince, did you already talk? You said something already?
No, it was double Dutch. I was just waiting for my turn to jump in.
There you go. Come on, get
So
in.
everybody said they were in between. I like to consider myself a hybrid,
Of course.
but I'm gonna keep it 100. I am very old school. I am old school with new school intentionality.
Okay.
Meaning that I am that one where I still believe that sometimes it is because I said so. I mean, some things, yes, I want you to do this simply because from a daddy and mommy point of view, we're asking you to do it and we'll give you the reason when we feel need to. And I'm old school because that's my mom raised me. I'm raised by my mom, so she's old school. And so I'm trying to instill what my mom instilled to me, but also bring that new school parenting where I do want my kids to have some leverage and some freedom to be who they are and to develop who they are in a sense of responsibility on their own. However, that old school is that fishing rod, and sometimes I just got to reel them back in.
Yeah. Okay, Reverend Barnett.
I am definitely old school.
Okay.
So much so that, and it's not that children don't have a mind and they can't express themselves, but there's a way to do it. And you have to do it with respect. And as Lindsay said, you teach your children to respect their elders. Today's youth, a lot of times, don't respect their elders. They're going to talk to you just like they feel. And when I grew up, that was just not permitted. And I think I probably trained my children the same way my mother trained me and her mother trained her. So it was generational. But yes, I am definitely old school. Children have time to go to bed. They have a time to be up. They're not up all night. My grandkids, I cringe when they tell me they're going to stay up all night. No, bedtime is this time. Go to sleep and we'll see you in the morning.
Yeah. So, okay, this is good segue. So my next question is, do you all feel like you parent the way that you were parented? Are you parenting your children the way that you were parented? Let's let the Lancasters go first.
Absolutely not. I know I'm not.
Okay.
To a certain degree. I think a certain degree I take some things that my parents did, but no, I listen to my kids. I'm sorry, Mom.
There's no taking it back now. Mom
But,
is listening.
I think I listen to my kids a little bit more. I do give them a little bit more freedom and flexibility to like express themselves in a lot of ways, and take their thoughts in consideration before I like totally just like, even if I talk to, even in now when I talk to my mom about certain situations with the boys, like, oh, they did this, she's just like, no, do this. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's not gonna work for them. It's like, I know that that's not gonna work. So I have to take each one and their characteristics differently, but I'm gonna let my husband tell that.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, I would pretty much say the same thing. I feel with our boys, like, I don't want to necessarily say it's do exactly as I say, even though that is the case in some instances. But I also want them to know and understand that I'm listening to them and that they also have a voice, because they're human as well. And even though there's the parent-child relationship, you are a human being, and I want to consider your feelings, too, to some extent.
Okay. All right. Showtime. What are your thoughts? Are you parenting the way that you were parented?
I'm recovering. Because I think a lot of times we be saying, I can't speak for everybody, but myself, we say like, man, I'm never gonna do this like that. Yep. But like, it's not that easy to run away from yourself.
Right.
Like all that you've known.
Yeah.
And so I think I'd be lying if I just said no. I think I'm trying to still unlearn some stuff that I think was not as beneficial.
Yeah.
And it's a process. So, but nah, I do find myself being like, why did I just do that? Like, yeah, so it's a process.
Yeah. So it's like you take the good of what your parents did have to offer with the parenting. And you got to understand, like, really, here's what I'm coming to understand is that parents really do the best that they can do, what they have, because nobody can really teach you how to be a parent. So when you think about like, man, they probably should not have done that because this has scarred me a little bit or what have you. Those are the things. Well, I'm not a actual parent, but I pay attention to children. And then those are the things you're saying. Well, that's how I want to act differently. Anybody else want to comment on that? Go ahead. Showtime.
Yeah, like I find myself, this when you know it's something you probably should adjust for everybody listening. Whenever you do something, and I did this before, I said, but why did I do that? When you don't have an answer, it's probably an area that's worth redeveloping.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, but why? Mm-hmm. It didn't, so that's just, anyway.
Okay. We do have a comment in the question and answer here. And I feel like all of us can probably relate to this, whether it happened to us or not. It said, one of the parents is saying, being a boy, my parents believe in whippings. Having daughters doesn't require the same level of discipline or corporal punishment. What are your thoughts? I know this is a hot topic right here. What are your thoughts about that? I mean, because that could be one of those things where, it could have happened to us, in our past, because that's what happened to our parents and that's what happened to their parents. And it's cycle. And you may say, well, I turned out okay. But on some level, that can be very, very traumatic for children. And when you grow up as adults, you still live with that kind of trauma. So do you agree with Dad saying that girls require a different level of discipline than boys? Or you can respond to the whipping part.
Yeah.
Anyone. Yeah.
I beg to differ that girls deserve a different level of discipline. All children need some type of discipline. The word tells us we don't we spare a rod, we spoil the child, you know, and we have to discipline our children. It's just how we do it. But as an old school parent, they all got a spanking. I didn't utilize anybody. Nobody got abused and got any limbs broken or anything, had to go to the hospital or whatever. But I didn't treat any child differently. And maybe that was because it was only one girl. And so when she didn't do as much as the boys to get in trouble, she didn't have to get as much discipline. So maybe I'm a little biased in that regards, but I figure they all deserve the same amount of discipline.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just not a proponent of parenting, like, as far as discipline out of fear versus respect. You know what I'm saying? Like, because, you know, you raise your hand, you know, at your child, they may be just terrified of you hitting them, you know what I'm saying, from the brutality of it, or even verbally, you know. But I do feel as though that there should be a line of respect there, but I think that is brought through relationship with your child. You know what I'm saying? And I do believe in discipline. I think discipline needs to happen, but I don't think that it needs to be physical or verbal. You know what I'm saying? Like verbal abuse. But in, you know, in a manner that they have, in a manner being done for them to know that, you know, they messed up. You know what I'm saying? And you know, to learn from it. But I'm just not. I've never been whooped. You know what I'm saying? But now I have
a lot. So.
I've caught a pop one time, you know, a couple times from my left hand of my mama. You know, to answer your previous question for myself, my mom was the disciplinary, my father was more lenient. I'm in between. I feel as though, you know what I mean. So, but I would never, strike my kid, but I love my mama. So, you know what I'm saying? I just think that a lot of time, because of, I guess, the role that we have, I'm your dad, you know what I'm saying? Or, you know, oh no, you gonna learn today. Okay, Martha. But it's just like, you know, saying, then it turns into, you know, you raise your hand to your child, or, you know, this, you know, but hey, that's to each of his own. I don't have nothing against people who do that. That's just my own perspective.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah. We I think we differ on this one. So my oldest two are my bonus children. So Mason, yeah, he's never gotten a whoop. I don't particularly. I was raised off beating whippings. Sorry again, Mom. I should talk to her about this first.
Buffy needs therapy after this.
But I don't believe in, I don't believe every child needs that. Now, you know, like I said, my husband and I differ on this a lot, but I think, you know, depending on the kid, you can discipline them in the right way and get the point across without having to put physical fear or harm to them, or having, because after you hit them, it's just like, and then what? That's always my question to him. And I'm like, and then what? Because then they still don't understand. All they think is, you hit me. That's all they worried about. Not the fact of like what I did wrong to even get you upset.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely differ. I'm only 5'8", but my two boys, my 14 and my 17-year-old, they taller than me. and there have been times where they feel like their height means something. And, you know, they might have to catch
I'm there for you, bro. Don't worry about it.
I'm not. We joke all the time. I tell Jamal, you know, because he played football, I tell him the boys are going to take him out one day by the knees outside. One day.
There's too many ways for that. So
I think when it comes to physical discipline for our kids, it's our oldest is 12, is our girl. We have two boys that are 10, and we have a 4-year-old girl. So it's usually the boys. They just need to get snatched every now and then.
yeah.
I think our girls, they're more emotional. So they remember getting those couple of pops and they'll stick. Right. It sticks with them. But I noticed with my nephew and our son, they need to get popped once per quarter. That's like 4 times a year.
Right. Yeah.
That's how we do ours.
But we also explain to them.
After,
So
yeah.
it's not like
Mhm.
we just beating them out of, well, I shouldn't say beating.
No,
See how
I
that
got beaten growing up. Nothing compared
Yeah,
to
I
that.
shouldn't say beating. Yeah, that's a bad word.
Exactly. So I'm gonna jump in right here.
Spanking, but as far as once they get a spanking, we also explain to them and to have them understand why it happened. So after the spanking, sometimes we'll be like, hey, come give me a hug. I know that's not the norm for old school mentality, but there's no animosity after why you got in trouble. So we can kind of go on with our day or the next day and kind of move forward based off, hey, this is what happened. This is why you got the spanking, and let's move forward. Sometimes James, my son, and my nephew, Kendall, they'll be getting in trouble so much. I'll be like, hey, let's hit the reset button. Whatever you did from here on out does not matter. Because sometimes when kids keep getting in trouble and they don't know how to stop. So let me help you stop, kind of give you a way out so you can kind of start fresh. So you don't have to keep worrying about, man, I hope I don't get in trouble today. Please let me not get in, because sometimes it happens. You try not to get in trouble and end up getting in trouble.
Yeah.
So sometimes, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think even with that, they're trying to really figure out boundaries and how to really be independent and what they can and cannot do. So I really want to push on this a lot more, because I do feel like, so I'm glad when you heard yourself say beating, that you like it hit you differently, because that word beating is what a lot of us heard when we were growing up or whatever. It's like, we got a beating. That is very, very harsh. Yeah, so we did get beatings. We did get whoopings when we were growing up. And now that I think about, like, as an adult, I'm like, wow, there was a fear of, my parents, but I'm not sure at sometimes if it was like a healthy fear. I've read before, like it said, like parents are actually their child's first bully in their life, and they learn how to be afraid based on how they're treated by their parents. Now, I will say this. I don't necessarily agree that in terms of like, well, girls need to be less disciplined than boys. I just feel like the word discipline needs to be looked at in a healthy sense. Discipline can happen without physically being struck, or discipline can happen without belittling a child or demeaning them to where their self-confidence needs to be rebuilt every time, they get in trouble or what have you. But personally, I do feel like my mindset around spanking has totally changed. Now, I'm not a real parent, I will say, but it has changed to the point where I'm like thinking, like, what is going on? Then you have to think, like, these are little kids. They're actually being their 6-year-old self, or their 4-year-old self, or their 10-year-old self. They're just being who they are. We have a comment here, says the thing about spanking / whoopings, 9 out of 10, there's always a deeper issue that needs to be addressed. Why not start with the deeper issue instead of the quick fix? Yeah, I will say whoopings can be a quick fix. For me, it was. It's funny because my sister, who is older, I feel like my brother that's right up under me, Joseph, we got enough beatings for JAMAAL and Keisha. And I do feel like they just paid attention to every time we got in trouble. They were like, we're not going to do that. But I think there's always deeper issues there. I think it's not as deep though. It's really trying to just see them as trying to figure out life, but you don't want to let them run all over top of you neither. There needs to be boundaries set in place. Now, if I had my own children, I don't know. I just know right now as an auntie, my mindset is changing about it. Yeah, so I'm more on the critical side of things, which is a good transition, because a lot of times when you're thinking about discipline, some of that discipline has to do with controlling your kids or their lives. Do you feel like you can actually control your children's lives? So first, let's go ahead and release that poll question to everybody. So should parents try to control their children's lives? Those of you that are on Zoom, go ahead and vote. Even panelists, can you vote as well? I think yeah?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, good. And then if you're on Facebook, you can type in there, should yes or no, or it depends. Should parents try to control their children's lives? I can't wait to see how this is going to turn out. Okay. All
My
right.
mom is still trying to control my life.
You already know my pain, so don't even, let's not go there, because, yeah, my mom may be on here too. Okay, so the majority are saying no, parents should not try to control their children's lives. Now, let's jump in here. Come on.
So I didn't answer that question. I didn't answer that poll. I think control is a harsh word.
Mm-hmm.
Control is a harsh word. There's one thing to control your child's life, and then there's another thing to nurture, rear, and guide your child in the direction. Control is such a dictatorship. I'm telling you to go this way, but I have no reason or rhyme behind why I want you to go this way. If I'm rearing and guiding you and leading you, I want you to go left is because left is a safe way. Left will give you a more scenic view of why things are happening the way they are. Left will get you to your destination a lot safer. It may not be quicker. It may have obstacles, but I promise you, right, you may not make it there at all. So are we controlling our kids' lives by rearing them and guiding them? Because there has to be boundaries. There has to be stipulations. There has to be some type of control to keep them from just going their own way. Aaron and Avery are 10 and about to be 7. They don't know which direction to go in. So I have to have some control over where they go, over what they see, who they hang out with, what they're eating, who they're playing with, whose house they go. So there's a level of control. But I think in the context of, are we controlling our kids' life, is looked at in such a negative connotation where we say, oh, I don't want to control them. But sometimes they need that control. Now, when they get 16, 17, 18, no, you're not controlling. You're just praying that what you have taught them, how you have led them, how you have guided them, they will then take that and they have control over their own life. But right now, you do have control. So the control shouldn't be looked at as negative. So when people answer, they say, no, I don't want to control. Yes, there is a level of control that you do have over kids, that you pray that they will go in the direction or they would learn from the teaching that you're teaching them.
Yeah, that's good. Because here's the deal. I mean, there's no amount of control that can yield the outcome of your child having a perfect life. You know that, right? Like, you can sacrifice whatever to try to give them the best things in life, and their life still may turn out different than what you planned for them. Anybody else want to respond to that? This question about controlling your child's life?
I feel like, yeah, I agree somewhat with what Danny was saying. I don't think that we can control their lives. Just like, I mean, I'm pretty sure my parents, I know that they're thankful and grateful for where we are now, and they're proud of me, and that's all I can really ask for. But I think, like he said, like this level, I agree, like this level of just oversee that you need to do for especially your younger kids, your 7-year-old. But as my older boys are now, that 14 and 17, it's a little scary, a little nerve-wracking, because you have to start relinquishing some of that like decision making to them, and like really allowing them to have a place to make those decisions. Not so much my 14-year-old. We do give him a little bit more, just a tad bit, but still kind of like holding on, like, nah, that's just not a good idea. But our 17-year-old, I really allow Milan to just like guide him in that way. But yeah, you want to say something?
Yeah. Just from the standpoint of just like you're saying with the control, with my oldest, I don't know what 4 years he'd be 21. So, he'll pretty much be on his own. But up until this point, for me, it's just having him taking everything that I've taught him up until this point, not up until this point, but up until this point, and and releasing some of the rope that I may have, and allowing him to be able to kind of make his own decisions. And some of the decisions in which you make, they may be good, they may be bad, but I have to be able to allow you to make those decisions in order to see. And then whether it's right or wrong, we can come back, we can reevaluate it, and then go from there.
Yeah, I think sometimes in some places, like say, like especially with him being the oldest, we kind of like allow him to make some. We know it's a bad decision, like know it. Like he works now, so it's like them purchases, and I just sitting there like your account gonna be empty if you do this. Like we make him save and tithe, like that's not an option. Like first of all, you will give, you will save. That stuff is set aside, but like your spending money, I kind of allow him to do it. But then when he had to learn a hard lesson last week, he didn't prioritize going to the grocery store. So that boy ate oatmeal and peanut butter jelly for lunch and breakfast. Dinner was on us, but breakfast and lunch is on you. That was the agreement when you started working, but you didn't prioritize it. PlayStation became your priority. And so that was that hard lesson that, because I was trying to explain to him, like when you get out on your own, if you don't prioritize your needs, you may be eating ramen noodles. Not there's anything wrong with it, but you may go hungry some days because you rather go out or you rather get the latest game and spend $60 on a game versus taking that $60 and going to the grocery store and making sure you had food to eat. So it was, he likes to eat, and that was, he was hoping I was going to change my mind every day. Oatmeal.
Oh, that's good. If I could jump in, I think I agree with what's been said. Like that, we gotta set out boundaries and we gotta guide. I think the real problem when we talk about control, I think the real problem is when we begin to parent and plan from a place of pain solely. What I mean by that is like, so why some parents like are overly controlling, like you might hear your child processing in a certain way, and because you want them to process another way, no. But I always say our job is not to design them. Our job is to discover and develop. Like God is the designer. So our child, some children might be creatives and we want them to process like somebody else. But the way they process might be how creatives process. And so if I try to design, I could be scribbling over what God has already put there. You know what I'm saying? And mess their whole way, their wiring up, if you will. So from the way they process to the way they think, certain things they want to do, gifts and things they want to experience. You know what I mean? Why would you try to force them into this sport or this activity or this thing? Because we parent oftentimes from a place of pain. We look back on our lives and say, well, I wish I should have did this sport. So you're going to do that. Huh? Your time is over. Give it up. You know, or we say, "What? I don't want you to," because I wish, and a lot of it is just strictly from pain. And some of that stuff is good, but we got to be careful because, like, I'll just say this: as parents, we got to deal with our kids so that we can deal with our kids. What I mean by that is, I think every parent has some inner children inside of us, from when we was 8. When we was 10, when we was 13, and we hear the voices of these kids inside of us saying, don't let her do that. And some of that stuff is good, but some of that stuff just comes from our own trauma that we project on them.
You better preach that.
We got to deal with our own kids so that we can better steward the kids God gave us. And the best place to do that is in therapy, get with a pastor, get some counseling, some prayer. But that's what and I'm not just talking to anybody, I'm talking about my own dad myself. I go to therapy at least once a month to deal with my own kids so that I don't project these kids on the kids God gave me. That's what I think is critical.
That was good. That was good.
I think that it's different phases. Like maybe, you know, in the beginning, depending on like the age of your child, I think that control turns into leading. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, at a certain point, you know, we got to speak for our kids, like what Danny was talking about. Like, you know, I got, you know, a 9 and 8-year-old. You know, I have to be able to control what they're doing, but I also have a 17-year-old, you know, where that control turns into leading her. And I know it's at times, whereas, you know, we try to take off, you know, the reins, so to say, but she'll come to us like, what do y'all think? You know, what is that? You know, it's like, well, you know, you're at a point now where you decide what you want to, you know what I'm saying, do. So I just think it's all about, it's not a straight cut thing of, you know, do you control? I just think that it's the transition that takes place.
So I just want to throw out this illustration. When a firefighter cadet joins the fire department, before that chief allows that firefighter to tackle a real fire in a house or something, they put this firefighter is thrown into a box where the fire is controlled, and it's a controlled situation, so that firefighter learns different ways to handle this fire, different ways to handle the heat, different ways to handle if the fire is above them, beside them, underneath them. And I think that's how our kids are. We throw our kids in controlled environment where we still have the leash to be able to pull them back if it gets too tough for them, if it gets too rough for them. So we're looking at their life from a panoramic point of view, from areas that they cannot see, that we are privy to. And so that's the level of control that I think is healthy versus the level of imitating, or that Pastor Lindsay was saying, where we want our children to imitate our life or the lack of life that we wish we had.
Yeah, that's good. Anybody else? NEISHA, you was about to say?
Yes. I think when it comes to the controlling part, you have to know your kids. So for example, we have 4. Trying to control the 12-year-old all the way to the 4-year-old, if we don't know who they are and what are their push buttons as to what we can take away, what we can give them to motivate them, then we can't allow them to try to make that right decision once that opportunity comes, you know, before them. Like our son, we know he's the artsy one. So, you know, that one punishment, I have to become creative because I have to do it with my adult students. What can I take away from you that's going to make you focus on what I'm trying to teach you or the information I'm trying to give you? So for a whole week, when we took away, I said, no drawing, no coloring, no nothing. This boy lost his mind. Like, he was sad. It didn't take physical, it didn't take anything. So you have to know your kids, and you have to be that parent where you're not only observing them, you're talking to them, you have to know each one of them. I think that's what makes the difference.
That's where the new school part comes in.
Yes.
Rather than the old school part. Because when we were younger, it was like, you do it, I don't care. You'll get a spanking, not a beating, but a spanking.
No,
but today's society, so based off that experience, we know how to reevaluate when it comes to our kids and kind of look back on saying, hey, when I was his age, what did I do? And how can I change that? So we have in the back of our mind, like, that scarred me when I was little, and I remember that. How can I change that cycle now that we have kids, so they won't be scarred when they're older and they have kids? So that's where the talking, and like one of you said about the therapy, it helps.
Yeah,
it's a stigma in our community, but it actually helps.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I will say that one thing that I do love about my brother and my sister-in-law is that they really do pay attention to their children and what their natural gifts and talents are, and they absolutely feed that. Because when you're thinking about your child, like for example, my nephew James, he is a creative. He's not going to process information the exact same way as his older sister Alana will. She's more analytical. She's going to be more left brain. So he's going to see things in color. He needs vivid, graphics, images, whatever. But I like how you all just feed that in them. And then you're like, okay, what do you want to do with that? So I do see you relinquishing that control. I think sometimes parents, you all don't give yourself credit for what you may think other people may not celebrate. I celebrate the fact that you are in your children's lives and that you love them so much. So I would just say when you see something, just begin to feed it and allow them to do it. I mean, my nieces and nephews are entrepreneurs.
Yeah, they
They have
bougie.
their own businesses right now. So
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, so this is actually a good segue. We only have about 13 minutes left, but this is a good segue. I think a lot of times parents tend to feel guilty, which now brings in that whole feeling of wanting to control their children because there's a tendency to feel responsible for your children's actions. So when your children may not do things that meet your expectations or don't turn out the way that you may want them to turn out, it's like you put that back on yourself. Somehow I have failed. Somehow I did not do something right. Somehow I did not provide enough, so it must be my fault. So my question is, with this whole blaming yourself or maybe feeling guilty on why your kids may not get all A's or they're misbehaving in school or somewhere else, what are your thoughts around that? Do you all feel any kind of guilt towards you know, my question is, do you feel responsible for your child's shortcomings, or are they human enough to just be themselves and have shortcomings?
Well, I'll jump in and say yes. Sometimes that's a struggle of mine. And I hate to be the dead horse, but it goes back to what I just said prior, that I'm in the process of dealing with my inner kids. Because some of the times that I feel guilty, it reminds me of something in my own past. You know what I mean? And I got to be careful not to project that on him. So do I feel it? I'm human. Absolutely. So every parent out there that you feel it, praise God for humanity. So it's just what I got to do with that. You know, so if I see my child struggling with reading in this area or that, it reminds me of struggles that I had. You know what I mean? Reminds me of time, all that. Yeah, I was one of them kids growing up. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I feel it. But what I try to do is use that as a time of empathy and also like education. So what lessons did I learn that I could probably pass on? You know what I mean? And try to be more empathetic because I see it. I've seen it before. So that's my take.
I would say, yeah, happens a lot. Seems like we always bringing up James. Yeah, sometimes James, when he struggles with math is his Achilles heel. So, yeah, it pains me.
Wait, I rebuke that demon in the name of Jesus.
Listen, call it what you want. But yeah, so sometimes with James struggling, even with Alana, sometimes it's like, man, why can't y'all get this simple concept? And me being, I don't want to throw no zodiac signs, but me being a Virgo, everything has to be like analytical, straight to the point, perfect. You get it, you see it, you comprehend it, and you move on. And sometimes with my son is like he doesn't get it, and I gotta kind of step back and say, hey, he's not you, like Steph said. So what can you do to help him? So now you have to step back, reevaluate. Hey, he needs a tutor. Let's get him a tutor. Sometimes people don't have the necessary resources to kind of deal with the shortcomings that your child has. So it kind of, is thrown back in your face when you don't have the necessary tools to actually help your child succeed.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I do it all the time. Yeah, me and my kids, they got their mother brain, so they slow. So.
All right, Reverend Barnett, we haven't heard from you.
I just wanted to say I agree with everything that's been said, but what's so important is that we know our children. We know them each individually. We know what their strengths are. We know what their weaknesses are. And when we do that, we know how to work with them each individually. And so when they do something and they stray or they do something that you would not appreciate them doing, if all along you've been teaching them and telling them what the consequences are for certain actions that they do, and you hold them responsible to those consequences, not with spankings, not with whoopings, but there are always ways of dealing with them and their consequences. And if you give them the consequences ahead of time, you can deal with that situation. And that way, when they do something, then you're not totally feeling like you're totally responsible for everything that they've done, because you've already told them ahead of time.
Yeah. So I just wanted to share some comments from Facebook. It says, someone says, some parents do come from a place of kids, I guess what you were saying, Pastor Lindsay, place of kids, because some of the parents face discrimination and racism. So parents try to focus on our kids be the best they can be because they didn't have the same opportunity. So again, that's some of that guilt of, I have to try to give my child what I did not have. So, or I'm trying to protect them so much. And that's actually one of the questions here. It says, can you speak to parenting out of fear? I'm fearful of a world that won't love my Black child like I love him. Y'all want to respond to that, please?
I think this year leveled up me having to expose down to my youngest child. And I think I touched on this, last time, about just the inequalities against and injustices in our world. It was tough having to describe that to him. It's tough still having to talk to my older boys about it and the way they deal with it. My oldest son is probably the one I would say is the most green to society. He just feels like they're not going, like, why would they? Like, I'm a good person. I'm not doing nothing. Why would they? So that's probably the scariest part at times. I don't know. I think honestly, to answer that question, we just try to give our boys this love in this house. Like, it starts at home. And when I give them that love, show them God's love completely of how God loves them, like overall, over everything, all I can do is like pray that other people see that in them. Like, they see their light, they see their joy, they see them and don't try to diminish it, or that other people in this world won't diminish it. It's going to be tough. Will they experience things that I didn't experience because I'm a Black female? I'm sure my sons will experience some things that I'm not gonna know what to even say, that my husband could probably speak to. But yeah, I mean, for me, I just want to give my boys the most love in here, show them God's love, and
It's scary when you think about the times that we live in now and the times and how we grew up. Whereas I have two girls, I was an only child, and my mom was raising me, and I was able to run my entire apartment complex, leave the house 9 o'clock in the morning and just hang out all day long, maybe come in the house for lunch, maybe not. I'm with my boys. And to think about, and this is at 10 years old, but to think about my child running the complex from 9 o'clock in the morning until 5 or 6 o'clock, so many things just rush my mind. And I don't even know if we even think about that back then versus now. So that parenting out of fear of what's to come, what can happen, is you gotta be really transparent with your kids about why. How come you can't go over such and such house? How come such and such can't come over my house? Daddy, how come you have to follow me around the playground everywhere I go? I want to ride my bike around the front of the building. You can't just stay right here. No, I'm a walk with you around it because you might go around the corner and never come back. But why? What do you mean I'm never going to come back? So the fear of trying to even explain that to a 7-year-old, a 6-year-old, or a 10-year-old is frightening, because it's like, wow, why do I have to explain that? Why do I really have to do that? Because the times that we live in, And explaining it feels like you're pushing that fear on them, but it's not pushing the fear on them. You're just making them aware. But it's it's a paradigm, because you're scared, but you want to help them without making them scared.
That's good.
That's real. I just listening to you, man. You dead on. It's just so different out here now than, you know what I'm saying, in the past growing up. You know, what we try to do is just be straight up, like you said, this, you know, transparent, explaining this life, you know, why, like you just said, why I can't just let you ride around. And then they turn around, you know, my youngest one's like, was it like that when you grew up? You're like, no, but it's not, you know what I mean? It's just, it's reality. And, you know, just explain it to them now, this the whole thing wearing masks, man, it just is, that defeated me so much back when this stuff first started happening. I remember I had to put a mask on Blaze for the first time. And I'm just like, I don't want her to go through this, but it's just like, it's life. I got to explain to you, this is why you have to do this, because, you know, it's a disease out that could possibly, you know, you catch it, you could die from. But, you know, it's all in this like different levels with the fear, like, you know, without Sage, you know, saying she's transitioning to adulthood, and, you know, having them talks, you know what I'm saying, with her, like, okay, yeah, you can go out, you know what I'm saying, but listen, this is what you have to know before you go out, you know what I'm saying, just having this, that 100, you know, in this talk with her. But it's on all stages, and, you know, to speak to this, the fear, you got to address it head on. And it, you know, it's not, you don't want no any surprises. You want, you know, a lot of times we underestimate what kids can understand and what they can know.
Yeah.
And just talking to them, hey, you know, eye to eye, and it's like, listen, this is what's going on. Yes, we're going to be able to protect you, but I also need you to be aware as well. You know what I'm saying, to the most part.
I think as parents, we need to get comfortable having those uncomfortable conversations. Some of the conversations that we find uncomfortable, it's because we've never had them with our parents. We have yet to have them with our parents. Right. Like, I can't sit down and have a sexual conversation with my mom or with my dad. Right. It's not going to happen. You know, my dad raised us to be very aware. He had 3 girls, so we were very aware of our environment and what's going on. He always spoke about what's on a man's mind, but I still can't have that conversation with him. But I know with our children, I'm very open. I don't know if it's my science background, or I don't want them to go through the same things I've gone through.
Yeah, you too open. I gotta walk out the room. I'm uncomfortable now.
Because I don't want them, I want our kids to be able to express themselves verbally. Right. And to have their feelings come across and not feel fear or demoralized, or, you know, have a stigma stuck to them. And we're so proud of our oldest. She's the one that will, you know, we were having dinner the other night and we were talking about something that asked a question. There was no back and forth. Like, the conversation ended and we were like, Lonnie, that's all you have to say? She was like, that was it. And that's great, because we know if they have something to say, or if something's on their mind, or something's bothering them, or they see something wrong, they're going to come to us. Yeah. And that's our aha moment. Like, it's working.
Yeah. So we're right at 7 o'clock, but here's what I want to, and this was actually so refreshing. And for those of you, I see a parent said that they came on late. Yes, this is being recorded. We'll actually put it on our website so that you can go back and view it later. Here's the question that I want to end with. As parents, I just want to say, already you're doing a great job. Just let that sink in. You're already doing a great job. But my last question is, do you ever feel pressured to parent in a way based off of how you see other people parent? And that's actually a poll question. So I'm going to release that question. It's called parent pressure. Do you ever feel pressure to parent the way other people are parenting? And panelists, everybody can end. Reverend Barnett, did you ever feel pressure to do that? But even as with adult children, I'm quite sure you're still parenting. So you can just jump in. Most everyone is saying absolutely not. Some say no, maybe.
You're always a parent, no matter how old your children are. They're always going to need you. The one good thing I've always had with my children is open communication, which was something I did not have from my mother. So what I did was I tried to take the good from her and bring that to my parenting skills. And whatever I didn't feel that was good, I left that behind. And so my relationship with my children has always been open. You can come to me and talk about anything, even the sex and whatever else that they need to talk about. I'm here for you. We'll discuss it and we'll go from there.
Okay, what about you, DAMONT? You got
Uh,
pressure.
yeah, yeah, never really, kind of like this, stay in our own lane. But I can tell you though, to be honest with you, one thing, man, it's been the cell phone thing. Oh man, Sage, coming up when she came up in 5th, 6th grade, Highland Park, other kids had a cell phone. Why can't I have a cell phone? Now I'm going through the same thing with Dylan. So he's 9, and everybody in his class got a cell phone. But me and my wife, we've always stuck to. It's not at a point where we feel as though our kids need a cell phone, but it's just, I don't know, it's just something that comes along like, okay, now it's time. But I just share that as like, that's just one thing that kind of like being kind of like Wayne Sprint, only. But other than that, nah, man, it's too pivotal out here nowadays that I can trust somebody else, the way they go about things, right, to, for me to raise my child. So no, we stick to the guns around here.
Okay, Team Lancaster. Your thoughts?
Yeah, no, we answer absolutely not. We admire other parenting, like the way people parent. I can say that I can see people and just see how it grows their kids, or how it affects their family and their children. But our kids are like so different that even if I tried to try it, it probably wouldn't work. So I just stick to what we know. Like I got a whole entertainer who's 7, and he's just like, I gotta feed that and like deal with him on his level. So I do get what DAMONT said about the whole phone thing. This phone pandemic is just, it's crazy, because even that now, Mason's 7 and he's like, everybody has a phone, and it's hard because some of these kids that he's talking about, that he mentions that has them, are split homes. They go from one parent to another. So I try to explain them from that level, like, this is the reason why they need the phone, and necessarily why you don't need the phone. But yeah, I'm not swayed by the way.
Okay. All right, did I hear from everybody? Who's next? NEISHA and Jamal, y'all feel pressured in any way?
No.
Okay. That's just no.
No,
Okay.
absolutely not. We do take the good that we see from other parents and try to incorporate it in our own way. If it's something that we think that can work, may work. But no, it's our house, it's our home, it's our kids. So it's us.
Yeah, I don't care about what people think.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah, I'm pretty much over that.
There you go. Because the grass always looks green on the other side. And I know y'all have heard that over and over and over again. Don't go broke trying to be like somebody else who's probably already broke, trying to keep up with the Joneses. What do you say, Stefan? You got any parent pressure?
I answer maybe. And I'm very linear, my brain. My wife don't like this a lot. So if I see a question that says, do I ever? I ask myself, is there a 1% chance that I have ever, or do I ever? If 1% chance, my answer has to be maybe. Because I'm human. It's just all about what I do with that pressure. So my answer is yes, sometimes it's possible. But what I do with that pressure looks different every time. But like they said, I am always trying to explore other models. Many of the couples here, like I admire y'all's marriages and just figuring out things we can take. I think we all are trying to figure out what model works. And I just say this, talking about models, my heart really does go out to any parent that might be watching that is old school, or anybody that's gone through old school parenting and you're trying to figure out your style. My encouragement is this, like, because I used to be real hard on my parents as I got older because of their style. Mm-hmm. When you really think about it, where did many of our old school parents get their model from? Like at my grandmother's house one day, she showed me a book where, you know, some white people, it was this, some book where they were keeping record. And next to her mother's name said N-I-G-G, you know, that's what they called her. And so when you, and then the generation before that, when you think about who parented many of our parents that were slaves, what they learned, you only can do oftentimes as much as you learn. So if they were taught certain styles when it came to discipline and how you get control and how you do this, and you don't say nothing, do as I say, not, where did those styles come from?
Yeah.
When you really think about it. So we begin to pass that stuff down. And at first I was bitter towards my parents because of it. But when I learned the history of where everything has an origin, you begin to have more compassion and say, you know what, I'm not gonna hold you to that. Now it's up to me to remodel.
Yeah. That's good. All right, Prince.
So after listening to everybody, I will say, me and my wife definitely run a very, very tight ship as far as how we parenting. But I personally will be lying if I say I didn't look at other people's parenting styles and wonder if it works in my house. I'll be lying if I didn't look at how someone was parenting that child and I saw it work perfectly. And I'd be like, oh, I wonder if it works in my house. Because at the end of the day, there are no rules on how to parent. And we're all just parenting by faith and by grace, hoping that what we do works. And so in my mind, I want to parent my child. I want to parent my kids right. I want to parent my kids with grace and with love. And if I do see something that I feel might work, I might be tempted to try it. But that doesn't mean that I'm like, oh, I have to do it their way because they said it. It's more so, let me just kind of, let me tinker with that a little bit.
Yeah.
Chew the meat, spit out the bones to see if it works for my household. But at the end of the day, it's still up to me and my wife to decide, are we going to let this be a foundation in our parenting? Are we going to add this to our arsenal? Are we going to add this to our book of parenting? Or are we going to say, you know what, that didn't work, let's not go with it? Because we do have a very structured and open way of how we parent our kids, and it works. But a lot of times, me, just for the simple fact that I'm always I want to do things over the top. I may suggest something that say, okay, let's try it this way. So yeah, sometimes you do parent out of pressure.
Yeah. Okay. Did everybody?
Too.
Yeah, that's true. Did everybody get to answer that question? Yes. Okay, so this actually will wrap up our second web. Thank you guys so much. I knew this was going to be good. I knew this was going to be absolutely. Hey, oh yeah, let's get some babies. Oh, can we see your twin, Danny? That's my niece, Audrey. Unmute your computer so Audrey can say hi. Can you bring your twin, Danny, so we can see her? Hi, Audrey. Good to see you. I miss you, big girl.
Guys,
some babies.
You say hi,
man,
Hi, ladies.
I want you to come on.
Yeah, where's Mason?
Mason.
Yeah, we want to see some of our babies.
Yeah.
Mason's coming. Hi, Blaze.
Hey, Taji.
Is that Taj? Hey, Taj. Hey. Look at my Taj. Where's Shamar?
Mars, he's coming.
I'm the old
Oh my goodness.
Okay, before we leave, hey, Shamar.
Hey, Shamar.
Good to see you. There she is. Unmute yourself, Danny, so we can see her. I mean, I'll pin you. Look how cute she is. Oh my God. That is your twin.
Hi.
They are also adorable.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm just gonna pray for all the parents and then we're gonna log off. Someone says, for anyone trying to navigate and identify their parenting style, I would highly recommend Intentional Parenting by Doug Fields. So it's a book, Intentional Parenting by Doug Fields.
And I would also like to encourage Extreme Parenting Podcast as a tool on Apple, Spotify, Google. That is a great parenting podcast.
Yeah.
Learn. They talk about a lot of great topics.
Oh yeah, it should go right there.
Podcast.
Let's
I
move
don't
the
know. I don't know like how to. I guess Salika, you can give me the link.
No, that's right. Extreme Parenting Podcast is correct, and it's on Spotify, Google Play, all those. Everywhere you can get podcasts.
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right, let's pray and then we're out of here. And thank you all on Facebook for attending as well, and all of our attendees. I'm just so happy that we could just have this conversation. Let's just look to the Lord in prayer, and then we are out of here. Our Father and our God, Lord, we come now to say thank you for another day. Thank you for your grace and your mercy. Thank you for your love and your kindness. Lord, I lift up the parents to you. I pray, Father God, that you would speak to their hearts and their minds and reassure them that they are doing the best that they can do, Lord God. And by your grace, they will continue to be refined as parents. I come against any kind of guilt that they may be feeling, any kind of pressure. And I pray that they will fully rely on you, that they will lean into that grace that you give them to be able to parent the gifts that you have given them. We ask that you would bless our evening. Thank you for Highland Park Christian Academy, Lord. We know that we're under your grace there as well. And we pray that all things will work together for our good. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. God bless you all. We hope you have a great evening. And thank you, thank you, thank you.
Great job.
Thank you. Good job, everyone.